What is something you were able to do with this role, with this performance in this film, that you wouldn't have been able to do if it had been your first time working with Christopher Nolan?
Well, I think that that's a very good question.
Is this almond milk, really?
Just chunk it across the room.
I don't drink almond milk.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Murphy, an honor, sir. Thank you for your time.
Oh, pleasure.
I'm going to start out with what is a big question, but I was wondering if for a moment you could imagine sitting in a movie theater with Robert Oppenheimer and watching this film. And when it's over, you lean over and ask him, what did you think about how I did this? What is the aspect of your performance you'd love to get his thoughts on?
Oh man, that would be an absolute nightmare for me to sit beside the man you're supposed to be portraying. I don't know. I mean, I think we investigated and interrogated the man, and I think it's up to the audience to kind of decide and to judge or not what they think of him. You know, the film asks a lot of big questions, I think, and that's what good films should do, I think, but they don't give too many answers. So thankfully I will never have to ask Robert Oppenheimer. Yeah.
Fair enough. I was wondering if you could flash back to the very first time you were ever directed by Christopher Nolan, which I believe was the screen test for Batman.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of curious what you remember most about that day. A young Christopher Nolan auditioning for that part, just all the details of that day. What still stands out to you all the years later?
Oh, that's a good question. I remember it was, for a screen test, there was very high production values. Like, we had a full set, and we shot on film, and you know, it was the crew, and I was in the Val Kilmer suit. I remember every one of us that auditioned was in the Val Kilmer suit. But I just remember he was brilliant with actors, and that's one of his key talents. Is he's amazing with actors. He gives the most succinct, precise notes that can kind of change your performance, and I remember we got on. I remember we got on, and we connected in some way, and it's kept going for 20 years.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Robert Oppenheimer's famous interview when he quoted Hindu scripture, "I am become death."
Yeah.
I've seen that clip a million times, and it was always powerful whenever I watched it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's changed forever for me, having now seen this film.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what you pulled most from that clip and how that line, his delivery of that line, has since changed for you since playing this part.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of an iconic clip, isn't it? The thing that struck me a lot watching a lot of those videos, because there's an awful lot of footage of him giving lectures, and that's one of the rare kind of candid interviews, but I found throughout a lot of it, he is quite performative in a lot of those interviews, and particularly in the lectures. And while that was very useful for one aspect of his character, it wasn't entirely useful for me in terms of the sort of day-to-day man in his day-to-day life. I think you can feel the history and the kind of the weight when he says that. You could see it in his face and in his eyes.
Something about him looking down,
yeah.
I feel like says a lot.
Yeah, it's an incredible clip.
I want to cut you loose on this. Goes without saying, your 6th time working with Mr. Nolan. And I'd imagine at a certain point, it goes without saying there's a trust there that you can't replicate. So I am curious, what is something you were able to do with this role, with this performance in this film, that you wouldn't have been able to do if it had been your first time working with Christopher Nolan?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I think you move beyond the fact that he is Christopher Nolan, one of the greatest directors in the world, and you've become friends. So you feel very safe in the working environment to try stuff and to make a fool of yourself and to go deep and to have a laugh, and we worked really, really closely on it. And I suppose those 20 years of experience have led to that level of trust and to that level of shorthand. And also, I'm kind of older and I've had a lot of experience. I remember being on those Batman sets and just being overwhelmed. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was kind of staggering. Whereas now, I suppose I've had the experience. I'm a lot more focused, I hope.
Oh, we are the beneficiary of that experience. I always like to think the good doctor's still out there somewhere in Gotham having a good time.
Well, he probably is, yeah.
Mr. Murphy, sometimes you do junkets for a movie and you just feel like it's important to do that, and it's important to be a part of this film in some small fashion, sitting in this chair, and this feels like one of those movies. So from the bottom of my heart,
man.
I know you have a packed schedule, man. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, that's very kind. Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Good to chat.
Your hair's the best I've ever seen.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah.
That's my first question is, what do you think of my hair? Scratch that one off the list. Guys, good to see you both again.
Good to
Thank you for
see
taking the
you.
time.
You bet.
Mr. Damon, you have a great line in the movie where you say this is one of the most important fucking moments in the history of the world.
Right.
And in that moment, they knew. They didn't have to ask.
I did.
Oh, he drops the F-bomb. It's great.
Does he?
Which I wasn't expecting, because in the trailer, they don't have the F-bomb.
Right.
But in that moment, they knew this was important. I want to talk about that idea on a much smaller scale. At what point do you guys know that a movie that you're in is important, is going to be talked about after you're gone?
When Chris
When
Nolan
Chris
calls
Nolan
you.
calls you up, yeah.
And says, hey, do
Literally.
you want to meet Chris Nolan?
Yeah.
Like, I am in a very important movie.
This is going to be great.
Yes.
I'm curious, like, is it a time and space? Like, does it take 10 years to look back in perspective, or do you know sometimes instantly? 'Cause
I feel I knew instantly. I feel I knew when I read this script, and then when you're on the set, it's just monumental. You just feel this film will have a monumental presence, not only now, but in your life ahead. You just know it, and it's an ethereal thing that you can't place exactly what it's about. Of course, the subject matter is incredibly impactful and will haunt people and
I think it's the
confront
subject
people.
matter.
But it's subject matter, but it's him. It's
and
the
when you see a director that's that locked in, kind of at the height of their
Yes.
powers. The only thing in my career, this movie felt the most to me like when I made Saving Private Ryan early on in my career.
or stuck on you. It just had that feeling.
or
right?
the Adjustment Bureau.
Hey, I like the Adjustment Bureau.
So do
Thank you
we.
for-
Come on, we
Do
love
your
it.
fedora. Do it. Come on.
But no, when you match somebody of that kind of virtuosic skill level with a story that
What a phrase! Wow.
But
wow.
yeah, I think like Spielberg or Nolan
Yes.
or Jim Cameron or one of those
Yes. One of those
directors
monsters.
with a story that is worthy of their considerable gifts.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Saving Private Ryan, because I did want to talk about getting two different perspectives of the same moment in history. Obviously, two completely different parts of the war, two completely different roles, and two completely different moments in your career. But I'm sort of curious if you feel any sort of spiritual connection between the two films, and I guess just how the two different movies give you different perspectives on the same moment in time.
I mean, I didn't draw this connection between them necessarily. I think what Groves and what they were doing with the Manhattan Project was, as to your point about the most important thing in the history of the world. I think they knew that. They knew that it had the potential to end the war. They thought, the scientists thought, perhaps in retrospect naively, and Oppenheimer was maybe naive, thinking that it had the potential to end all war. Right? Well, if we invent this, well, obviously nobody would ever be stupid enough to stockpile them, and so there would never be a war again. But yeah, it's just kind of I always think about trying to put myself in the headspace of the people who were living at that time, and I'm always kind of blown away with what people were grappling with, whether it's a guy in the 101st Airborne, or whether it's somebody trying to coordinate the construction of an atomic bomb. What was at stake for those guys, and how silly
What was that world for them?
and how silly our lives look in comparison.
Some of these movies let you think, man, I thought I had a bad day.
Totally.
And I didn't.
Totally.
That's okay.
I got 4 minutes instead of 5 at a junket. I can't believe it.
Is this almond milk, really?
Just chunk it across the room.
I don't drink almond milk.
That was Matt right before you came.
Right before you came, and that's
I
the
was
stain
wondering
on the
why
wall.
Kevin walked out drenched in coffee.
Yeah,
I was
well.
like, oh, he had it coming. Miss Blunt, it is fascinating to watch how Kitty is along the ride with Oppenheimer, not just during their personal life by his side, but also during some of the most important moments of his professional career. I'm sort of curious, what is the best professional advice you've ever received from your significant other?
Oh, wow.
Well, John is like the ultimate pragmatist in my life, which I adore. Like, I feel like John is like the call in the night for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
He just kind of fixes stuff, and he'll just say it. He's so great. Like, I'll express I don't know, something I'm worried about, and he'll listen to the whole thing, and he'll go, okay, you ready for some thoughts? And I'm like, yeah. And then he'll just lay it out. Now, he will admittedly say he's not good at dealing with his own concerns and worries.
But he's the best therapist.
But he's the best therapist for
yeah.
everyone else. So I can't think of anything specifically, but we have been laughing recently about some advice that this amazing photographer I just worked with, we were talking about what advice would you want to give people nowadays? And I said, I don't really know. And he goes, do you know what I want to say to people sometimes? I said, what? He goes, I just want to say, just get it. It's like the best. Because you could apply it to so many things. Guys, just get it, okay? It's time for you to get life.
Just
yelling at the kids, going, just get it.
Just get it. So I think that's my advice.
Love that. Mr. Damon?
Just get it.
Just get it. No, I think without naming any particular movies, that sometimes you find yourself in a movie that you know perhaps might not be what you had hoped it would be, and you're still making it. And I remember
halfway through production, you realize?
Yeah, halfway through production, and you've still got months to go, and you've taken your family somewhere, and you've inconvenienced them. And I remember my wife pulling me up because I fell into a depression about like, what have I done? And she just said, we're here now, and it was like, it's really, I do think, and I do pride myself in a large part because of her, at being a professional actor. And what being a professional actor means is you go and you do the 15-hour day and give it absolutely everything, even in what you know is going to be a losing effort, and that's hard. And if you can do that with the best possible attitude, then you're a pro. And she really helped me with that.
God, I love that. See, I'm writing down life lessons. I cut short my vacation with my girlfriend by a day to be able to do this junket.
Oh boy.
And I love you very much.
I love you.
Understanding person in the world.
I love you so much.
Guys, seriously.
And you're a pro. See,
You're a pro. You see?
I appreciate you. Guys,
Thank
from the bottom of my heart, I
you.
just want to say you guys have been putting me on your schedules since I was a kid.
We
and I just-
love
I
you.
love you from the
you're
bottom
still
of
a kid. Look at that hair.
I know. Look at that
hair.
hair.
What a head of hair.
Skin.
It
It's
can't-
fake.
I don't care. It's
Put it on.
fantastic.
God, so is Matt's.
Do you think this is real? This hasn't been real since 1996.
Goodwill Hunting, the last time.
That's the last time.
Yeah, last
Yay!
time. Guys, from the bottom of my heart,
Take
thanks for being so
care.
kind. I appreciate
Thank you.
Seriously.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
to be
You're
back.
the best. I'm sorry about your vacation.
I appreciate you.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.